So you're worried about premature aging on your skin or something even more sinister like skin cancer. So how can I help? Stay with me when I share my top 7 SPFs for your skin. You're going to see 4 of them are tinted, 3 of them are invisible.
Hey, you sunbathe. Don't get sunburned. Hope you had your SPF on.
And keep watching to the end because I have a bonus at the end. And before we get into these, let me also give you the context of the landscape of my skin, because that will be important probably as you think through and listen to some of my recommendations. So, not surprisingly, I have very mature skin. For a woman over 50, I have fine and not so fine lines. I have a mixture. I probably have what you would consider normal skin with during the summer, which it is right now, living in North Carolina. We're hitting high humidity, tends to be more on the little bit oily side. During the winter, it can be definitely drier, and I can have some very dry patches. So right now we're in the more normal, slight oily, especially in the T-zone area. So I hope that's helpful. I do also have some complexion to cover up with a little bit of some ruddiness, especially in this area, as you can see already poking through. I also do have a few acne scars that also frequent my skin. So with all that in mind, let's turn to looking at number 1. And number 1, again, not in any kind of an order, but I do have to say this is probably my favorite one. It comes at quite a price tag though, so I'm also want to put that right out front there. If you don't want something at a heavy price tag, about $50 to $60 for 2.6 ounces, then you might want to fast forward until number 2. But number 1 here goes to Alastin. So Alastin Skincare has a lot of wonderful products. This is their Hydrant Pro Mineral Sunscreen. It's got an SPF of 36. This is just a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful SPF. It has the right kind of consistency that it just seems to melt into your skin quickly, but not just to the point where then you feel like you have to put more on there because you don't think you really put enough on there. It leaves a really nice finish to your skin as well too. And it doesn't do any oxidization. It seems to stay true the entire day. It doesn't turn on different colors on me. It just does a beautiful canvas on my skin. It's also not too glowy, but it's also not too matte and dry. It has a nice pump here. I'm going to show you. Sorry if it's a little dirty here. See, that's just a little bit here coming out. It's more of a universal tint, and it's going to look like it's a little bit glowy, but it has a nice natural finish to it. You see how it really dissipated very quickly on my hand there. And although it looks a little bit glowy there, it's not an extreme glowiness in any kind of a way. I still do, oh, and it's already got a nice finish to it. It doesn't have that real tackiness that sometimes some of the products have that I just personally don't like. It already has this beautiful satiny kind of finish to it. I can't describe it in any other kind of way. Now I will admit that I still do put some concealer, so it's got a nice kind of light coverage, but I still will use a little bit of concealer. And I, for myself, also do just put a very light coating of some powder. I like the NARS translucent because that to me doesn't get cakey at all. But it has this really natural, beautiful look on it. Very highly rated, but it comes at that price tag. So again, number 1, Alastin Skincare Hydro Pro Mineral Sunscreen. And probably my next favorite in line, which also comes at a little bit of a higher price tag too, but not anywhere in that $50, $60 range, is the Elta MD. This is the UV Physical Broad Spectrum SPF 41. There's many different versions of this that you'll find if you look on Amazon, or I usually also get this right in the dermatologist office. Again, a nice tint to it, and it has a beautiful quality of the finish and the way that it absorbs. Again, not maybe a pump, but a little bit of a squeezy piece here. Let me get a little bit out there toward the end here of this tube. See, it's got that little thicker consistency. Again, look at how well that just so quickly absorbed in there. But again, not to the point where you feel like it's a sponge. Now I'm gonna have to put another layer on there. Just so nicely. Not really any kind of big notable scent there, but just covers so nicely. Again, with a really nice finish, similar to the Elastin. It doesn't have like a stickiness to it. It just has a nice kind of, a nicely hydrated and smooth skin feel to it. So really a nice one there. It has enough of a coverage that I feel comfortable wearing that just with a little bit of some concealer if I want to try and have a little more even of a look. And as I've said before, and I will say this with all of my SPFs, if I'm just using that and not using any other kind of foundation on top, which typically I do not put any other foundation on top, typically. I will still finish with a light dusting of powder just because I do like to have a little bit of a coverage also on top there, but again, a very light dusting of powder. But this is probably, again, number two. And number two, this wasn't necessarily supposed to be in any kind of order of preference, but a really, really nice product. I highly recommend this one to dermatologists. And now on to number three. Another probably cult favorite that I've seen many, many times, and there's good reason for that, and that is the Paula's Choice. This is, you can see how well worn this tube is. This is a super light daily wrinkle defense broad spectrum SPF for normal to oily combination skin, and I think that's important to note then too. This is a really wonderful SPF. If my skin is at all too dry, this sits on my skin. It will really hit some of the dry patches. So that's a really important piece here. During the winter, not so much with this one. During the summer, this works really, really well. Again, not a pump or anything. And I'm sorry, the cap is so awful looking there, but I want to give you an idea. Again, this is a little bit of a thicker one. Just spreads right out there. See, it's not as quick absorbing as number 1, 2, but definitely again, and it has a really nice feel to it though as it goes into your skin. Almost of all the ones, I feel like this almost has a little bit of a cooling sense to it. Now it is tinted. The tint is not one that's going to necessarily even out your skin. I think it's a little less of a tint to it than the Elta or the Elastin one. However, it still does have a slight tint to it, and I always feel like that slight tint is there so that you can see every place that you've applied it, so you can make sure that you don't miss it, because then I do feel like even though I think I see a little bit at first, it does very much dissipate into the skin. So anyway, that's my hypothesis. But I definitely, if I want more of an even complexion that day, I definitely do follow that with some concealer. I'm also 100% comfortable wearing it out the door just that way if I'm not trying to necessarily have a nice glamorous kind of look at all. It definitely does not have that radiant feel to it though. It does not have a glowy, oily feel to it, which is why during the winter, it can be a little bit tougher because my skin can be a little bit oilier. During the summer, this is a really nice one. I never feel like I'm gonna get slick and oily from the Paula's Choice at all. I still do, because I always do put a slight powder on top of this, but this is a really nice one. And if you're also looking budget-wise, I often find that Paula's Choice, you can get discounts for any of the products by doing a quick search out there. They're always running specials as well too. And if you're into the Ratukin, there's usually also some, money back for some of those too. So again, a cult favorite for a reason, Paula's Choice. And now on to number 4. What I love about this one, it's very affordable. What I also love is that you can get it in Target. And that, to me, that's like a wonderful thing, because I don't have to worry about mail ordering, even though I love Amazon. But the idea that I can be walking in Target, and I tend to be there quite a bit, and I can typically pick this up unless for some reason it's sold out. And this one is by Bliss. So this is their Block Star Invisible Daily Sunscreen. This has 100% mineral broad spectrum SPF of 30. Now this, when you actually find it, it will not look like this when you buy it. It does come in kind of an odd looking box, and it even says something about invisible sunscreen, and yet it does have a tint, and it's called invisible, but it does have a tint to it. So this is a really, really nice one. I like this one also during the winter months if the Paula's Choice is too dry in my skin and I don't feel like splurging as much on my other slightly more expensive ones. So here you go. You see this one is just a touch more liquidy, which you're not going to probably see it going as much here, but you can see the tint. You can see it just does a really nice, again, just blends in really nicely with the skin and has a nice, again, that feeling of I'm moisturizing also while it's going in here. And it's not, I'm not saying that it's a moisturizer, but it has that really nice, not a thick chalk kind of feeling, which sometimes I get from the Paula's Choice. Now, one thing with this one though, it has a very definite sunscreen scent. So if that is offensive to you and you don't like that, it is very strong. It dissipates really quickly, but you definitely get hit by that as you're applying it. So again, a real favorite. I really do like this one. Just be careful, knowing that it does have that sunscreen scent to it, but I think to me that scent is not offensive at all, and the convenience of being able to just pick it up at Target and the fact that it is so lovely, it's a really strong one too. So what do you think so far? Have you found one so far that you're thinking that you might want to try or that you have tried? Have you found similar results? Go ahead and leave a comment and down below so I see what your experience is. And now on to number 5. Now this is breaking a little bit from the ones that we've been talking about because this is an oil. And I know you're thinking, wait a minute, you've just said how you don't like a glowy feeling, you don't like anything, too radiant, and now I'm talking about an oil. But it's one that I purchased, and I have to say that I have used it several times if I'm not necessarily putting on another SPF, or I'm going to just be applying more of a matte type of foundation. And again, I don't wear foundation much anymore. It just doesn't seem to really look so good on my skin anymore. But if I am, and I need to have a little bit of something behind that foundation that makes my skin a little bit less dry, flaky, this is the sunscreen, the sunblock I use, and this is Super Goop, and this is just a smaller size. It's the Sun Defying Sunscreen Oil. It's got an SPF of 50. Now, this is actually made to also just spray on your skin. It is not the resetting spray, but this is made to just spray on your skin and then move around with your fingers. I tend to, because I'm just a little paranoid always about putting kind of oil like this on my face in the morning, I tend to instead, I shake it up, I don't know if you have to, just spray it on my hand like this, you can see, then taking it like this in my fingers and then spreading around my face that way. So again, this is a true oil, absolutely no color to it, but I would not just put this on and walk out the door myself with my skin. But I wanted to give you as an alternative because if I was ever wearing a makeup foundation that was a little bit more matte or drying, which tends to be a lot of the ones that I had, this makes a nice foundation kind of foundation. Before I keep going, let me just take a quick moment and thank you for joining me today. If you're new to this channel, I am Dale from Lifestyling with Dale Lynn. But our whole mission here is to be able to find what works for everyone. What gives you the spring in your step? What makes you strong? What makes you bold? What makes that whole inner flame for you work? Whether it's something internal or whether it's something external like beauty products. Go ahead and leave a comment down below. And if you think that this is something you want to learn more about, go ahead and subscribe. And if you really like this whole other area, go ahead and give it a like. Number 6. We're staying in the Super Goop line. This one is the Unseen Sunscreen SPF of 40. This is not tinted, obviously, unseen. This one, as compared to the Glow, it has much more of a satin matte kind of formula to it and finishing to it. I'll put a little bit here. So you can see that a little bit right there. It really does. It really is quite lovely. It has a wonderful feel to it as it glides on the skin. The skin just seems to, at least my skin seems to just love it. Now again, it's not tinted at all, so for me, if I typically want something else covering my skin, kind of blending out my skin a little bit, this will not be enough for me. And I also don't typically use this and just put concealer on. I prefer to be able to have something a little bit more even and then sometimes put some concealer on. So what I have done is sometimes use this in combination with, do you remember those number 7 drops, the foundation drops that were a rage for a while? I will sometimes use this in combination with some of those drops, and that does a really nice finish. Now, to me though, it's a little bit much to have to purchase a product like this, which is a little bit pricey, not $60 pricey, but I think this typically is around $30, $35, to be able to then have to put something else with it to be able to make it work when I could just get the Ulta or the Paula's Choice. So as much as I love the way that this feels, the idea of having to mix something else with it to be able to get the actual coverage and feeling, again, not coverage, but the blending part there, is a little bit obnoxious, kind of. So as much as I do like the way that looks and I really like this product, if you're wanting your SPF to also give you some kind of a coverage, I would keep that in mind. This is kind of the matte version of the Supergoop that everyone loves. So if you're not one of those who wants that radiant glow one, then this is a great alternative. If you want some extra coverage with it, you might just think about adding some types of drops in there or mixing maybe a little bit of your foundation in with it to give it that nice light tint. But otherwise, I really do love the texture of it and the way that it sits on my skin. At least at number 7 is again another drugstore version of an SPF that I've really, really, really liked. And it is the Biore UV Watery Essence SPF of 50 Aqua Rich. So this one is really, really nice as well too. It's got a really nice finish to it, and it comes out as a white cast. But then as it blends in, it very quickly, and it lives up to that name, that watery piece. And maybe that's why I also like this so much too, is it just does that really nice thing of right away melting in and becoming one with the skin. It has a little bit of a glow to it, but it's not something at all that's going to make, in my case, my skin feel really, really oily or anything. It's just going to have just a nice kind of healthy glow, but not a matte quality that I get a little bit from the Supergoop Unseen. But just it feels really quite lovely on the skin. It does not have any content, so similar to what I talked about with the Supergoop. If you're wanting something with a little bit of a tint to it, you might want to consider adding some of those, like number 7, those tint drops, or some of your foundation in with that to be able to give that kind of coverage. At that price point, I really did not mind doing that, as opposed to the Supergoop, but I've already spent $30, $35 and had to do something more to it. With this one, it was just a very minimal price point that I didn't mind having to do something different to it to make it really fully work for me.
And here's for the bonus. So how else can I help you besides sharing some of my favorite SPF for the face? And that is by attending also to the body, equally as important. And what I wanted to share was not only one that I really love, but it's also so inexpensive. And it is from the Walmart version, the Equate SPF, and it's the sport version. This one's in 70. There's also one in 50. And I love the spray personally because it's so easy to put on. But what I also love about this is it really smells wonderful too. Both my husband and I, when we put on, I'm like, oh, that smells so good. Not usually the reaction you get from an SPF. So anyway, inexpensive. It comes in multi-packs. It comes in a 50, a 70, I think there's even a 30. But not only is it inexpensive and does a really good job, we wear it out on the boat all the time, but it smells good.
Okay, so how was that? Did you find something different worth trying? Did you find a new SPF that maybe you're going to tinker with? Let me know. Give me some thoughts. Give me some comments. Let me know if there's other ones that you recommend that maybe I haven't mentioned. I've done a wide scope of trying so many different ones, and I didn't want to bore you with all the ones that I've tried, but I always am looking for other ones to be able to consider and try, especially when to me that is such an important thing. wear your SPF. It's, to me, the first of all kind of products to be able to use in skincare. So I look forward to reconnecting. Leave me some thoughts, leave me some comments and feedback. And until next time, I hope that you'll continue to find that spring in your step. Thank you, everyone.